Hello, I'm Michael Mann from Bennett's BikeSocial. And for those of you who are either familiar with twist and go scooters or who have never been on a motorcycle before and you want to learn how to change gear, let me be your guide. So on all types of road-going powered two-wheelers, you've got three types of transmissions or gearboxes. One is called the continuously variable transmission, CVT, and they're found on all of the twist and go scooters. You've got DCT or dual clutch transmission, and they're found on Hondas. This Honda's own specific gearbox. It's an automatic, in inverted commas, system that's been around since 2010. Started on the VFR 1200, and you can now find it on about 8 of their models in the current lineup. And then on every other motorcycle, you've got a manual gearbox, a manual transmission gearbox that will take you up and down, whether you're starting or stopping or accelerating or decelerating. So on all motorcycles, you are responsible for changing gears if it's got a manual gearbox. And this is done by the left-hand side of the bike. There's a gear lever, it's right here, right in front of where your foot peg is. So you're sitting on the bike, your left foot's there, and this is the gear shifter. The manual gearboxes on motorcycles are sequential. That means they go up and down in order. So you can't miss a gear deliberately. Like on an H pattern, on a manual car gearbox, you can go second and then you can come straight back down to fourth. You've missed third gear. On a sequential gearbox, you've got to go through every gear. So if you want to go from first to third, you have to go through second. Now, a technique would be that you could hold the clutch in and click, click, and you're into third gear. But for now, we're going to start on the manual gearbox where you're clicking down for first gear, and then you're up, all the way up to sixth gear, as it would be on this Ducati Street Fighter. The majority of motorcycles are 6 gears. Some lower capacity bikes or older bikes are 5, and possibly even 4 gears. But this one here, 6 gears, down 1, up to 6th. So long as the clutch lever is in, then first gear is engaged by clicking down on the gear lever. The lever will return back to its position courtesy of that spring. It won't stay down. So you'll hear a click and you'll feel a click as the gear is engaged, and you sort of take your foot away and it springs back in. Obviously on the dashboard on this modern bike, you can tell it's in first gear because it's got number 1 written on it. In the same way that you can tell it's in neutral because of this green light here on the dashboard. In fact, the vast majority of motorcycles have got some kind of indicator that you are in neutral. Because when you've got the engine running, when you've got your earplugs in, when it's noisy outside, you don't want to be pulling up at a junction or roundabout and realise you're not in neutral. So you let the clutch out and you're actually still in gear, and you've still got power and you've still got an engine that's running, and all of a sudden you make a bit of a prat of yourself. And whether it jumps forwards or it stalls or you end up catapulting yourself off the back, it's not that exciting. So yeah, once again, from neutral into first, you'll hear it, you'll feel it, and you'll see the number 1 appear on the dashboard, and then back into neutral. You'll see just the gentlest of touches on that gear shifter up again, and you'll see the N appear in the middle there of the dashboard. You'll also see the green symbol. Now it's time to get on the bike and walk through the process of changing gear. First things first, we're going to start the engine. Now we need to make sure, of course, that it is in neutral. This here tells us that we're in neutral, the big N, and also the green light. Remember that? That tells us we're in neutral as well. However, it's always good practice, I think, to start the bike with the clutch in, just in case. Like I said, I think it's kind of good practice. Alright, so let's fire her up. And we'll gently release the clutch just to make sure she's not in gear. No, she isn't. We've got the bike running, we're in neutral, so we haven't got a gear selected, which is why the engine is running and we're not moving forwards. So the simple process of getting the bike into gear is a combination of the clutch and your foot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the clutch in. I'm going to put my left foot onto the top of the gear pedal and click down against the spring, and the bike will select first gear. Ready? Could you feel that clunk? I sure could. The bike is in first gear. That means we do not want to be releasing the clutch until we're ready to move. We can release the front brake because we're nice and stable on a flat surface. So the gear is number 1. You can see it, it's right there on the dashboard, it says number 1, so we know we're in first gear. The bike's not going to go anywhere until we start releasing that clutch. This particular bike, the Street Fighter V4S from Ducati for 2020, has an absolute stack of torque. That means we can release the clutch and we don't need any throttle for us to start moving, even though we're on this nice flat surface. So, if you can see the clutch, I'm just gently letting her out, gently letting her out, gently letting her out, and we get to a bite point, just there. You can probably hold it on the bite point. Mechanically it's not that great for the clutch, but if I hold it there, that's my bite point, that's my clutch bite point. So I know that any more clutch that we let out, we're going to start moving a lot faster. This bike, like I said, I don't need to touch the throttle I don't need to give it any kind of gas to get moving. So I'm going to be ready to keep my balance, to lift my feet up, and as I let the clutch out, we're going to start moving. So I'll just rest my hand there to give myself balance. I'm going to start releasing that clutch out slowly, slowly, slowly. I don't want to dump the clutch because it will stall or I'll ping myself off the back. Right, I've got no gas, I've got my feet off the ground, we're doing 3 miles an hour, and I'm still not letting the clutch out. I'm letting it out slowly, 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 slowly. I'm not doing anything now. I'm a passenger. Just got to make sure there's nothing coming. Well, I'm going to stop. So brake and then the clutch in. Now we can get the bike into neutral. So leave the clutch in and I'm hooked my toes underneath the gear shifter and I'm just clicking. Oops, I'm into second. That's how delicate it is. There we are. Found myself neutral so I can let the clutch go and I know that I'm not going to go anywhere. Okay? So let's go through that process once again and we're going to get onto the road and then we're going to start gently accelerating. So I want clutch in, foot up, into first gear, and then we start moving. Alright, again, I've not touched the throttle. I'm using the clutch to move the bike away. I'm going to give the bike, I'm out, and the clutch is completely out now. And I'm moving forward, so I've got the throttle on. I'm just going to put my visor down. I'm in first gear. The revs are climbing, you can hear it climbing. Now this Ducati is an incredibly powerful bike. We're at 5,000 RPM right now, we're doing 28 miles an hour. It's got loads of revs, I can go all the way to 15,000 RPM. If I went to 15,000 RPM in first gear, the thing will be screaming and I'll be off down there at 70, 80 miles an hour. I reckon I need second gear by now, you can tell because of the engine note. And also the fact I'm climbing, I'm 30 miles an hour almost. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the clutch in, I'm going to select second gear, which is by hooking my toe underneath and clicking up into second gear. Again, we're against the spring. I'm just going to roll off the throttle gently as well. If I leave my hand on the throttle without rolling off, watch this. Just revs. So I'm going to go for second. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hup. Simple, isn't it? Once you get used to it, it becomes very, very easy. I'll go for third, and we'll continue accelerating, and then I'll walk you through that whole process once again. So in third, I'm doing 50 miles an hour. The engine revs are climbing. We're approaching 6,000 RPM. I think I might want fourth gear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to gently roll off the accelerator. I'm not going to roll off completely. I'm going to gently just take the pressure off the accelerator. And I'm going to bring the clutch in and I'm going to change gear all at the same time. It's going to happen in the blink of an eye. Ready? 1, 2, 3. As we climb towards 60 miles an hour, I think I want fifth gear. Again, I'll roll off very, very gently. I'll bring the clutch in, I'll make the movement with the gear shifter. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Now this particular bike, as we mentioned earlier on, has been equipped with a quick shifter. So technically I don't need to use the clutch at all. It'll change gear perfectly on its... I'll need to do the movement on the gear lever up and down, but I don't need the clutch lever. But for this video and this demonstration, I will. Now we're into a 40 limit, so I'm going to go down into fourth. Again, it's simple as that. Now down the gears on the gear shifter is down on the pedal. Just again, you're against the spring. Down on the gear shifter, just a click into fourth with a quick bit of throttle. All right. Now I'm approaching a junction. I want to be turning right, so I'm rolling off the throttle. I'm going to go down into third. I'm going to go down into second. I didn't even touch the brakes. I used the engine braking. I used the braking by going down the gearbox nice and smoothly. And I didn't even need to touch a brake. The front brake on the right hand side, of course, where my hand is, and the rear brake on the right hand side of the bike where my foot is. I'm I'm on third gear. I'm going to bring the clutch in very quickly. I'm going to snick another gear with my left foot. Ready, 3, 2, 1. Simple as that. Just the lightest little touch. So you're back onto the throttle as you're releasing the clutch. It's such a fast movement. It's in and out. The higher the gear, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, you don't necessarily need to worry about releasing the clutch gently. 1st into 2nd, you probably do. You want to be a bit careful with it, especially in town, especially in traffic. Now when you're downshifting, sometimes you might want to give it a little bit of blip of throttle just to match the engine revs with the speed of the bike. And on the downshift, are you ready? I'm just going to give it, I'm going to come in with the clutch lever, down on the pedal, and I'll give it a bit of revs. Just sounds a bit nicer. It's a bit more mechanically sympathetic. Now I'm prepared. You see, I didn't even need to come to a stop. See, watch the clutch, watch the no clutch. This is the quick shifter in action now. This is kind of the, depends if your bike has got a quick shifter or not. Alright, how about that then? Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you've got enough out of this video. I hope you've been able to learn a little bit. Good luck with your riding. Let us know how you get on. Ride safe, and thanks again. I don't know how much battery we've got in that drift. Okay.